Hi, welcome to today's live session. Tola, you're the first to join, and I am Tolulope. Thank you for joining. Efran023, thank you. And Race, thank you for joining. Lord knows too, I can see you. Thank you for joining us. We have started a live proper, and I would want to urge every one of us to tell their friends, to tell their friends, to tell their friends, to tell their siblings, tell their colleagues that Nexi has started her live section for today. It's very interesting. Today's live, you can't afford to miss it. For the lovers of Canada, you've been confused on what route to actually navigate. You've been confused on the course to go for. You've been confused on the level of program to go for. You've been confused if you're going to be favored in regards to the new policy. Please, this life is for you. You're going to learn a lot. I have updates for you, all right? Next being your surest plug is going to get you filled with much information today. So you can tell people, tell others that a live session has started. Okay, our topic for today is differences between postgraduate diploma and masters in Canada. And with this, we're going to actually check and weigh our options on which of these programs would even favor you more, and if you are certain and then that you've decided to go with either diploma or masters, you would know which will benefit you more. All right, so today, aside looking at the differences between postgraduate diploma and masters program in Canada, we're also going to look at the policies as they apply to these programs. All right, starting with postgraduate diploma and masters, that on the same level, honestly, level 7 postgraduates, all right, but they are different in the sense that the eligibility criteria and the credit units and the same thing. All right, our life has started. Okay, they aren't the same thing on the basis of eligibility and the number of units. 1:1 is to actually take. Okay, so for postgraduate diploma, if you want to go for this course, right, it will give you an excellent opportunity for you to upgrade your skill, for you to change your career path, for you to gain global exposure and build a very strong professional network. So when you're going for postgraduate diploma, it means that you want to up your skill. You want to go for a different program other than what you did in your undergraduate, right? And then you want to attend a college at a very affordable cost, all right? So if you belong to this category or any of this category, postgraduate diploma is for you. And also, like I said before, postgraduate diploma is not equivalent to masters. Now, postgraduate diploma has 60 to 120 credit units, while masters has 180 credit units. So you should have this at the back of your mind. What this implies is that masters is more involving than postgraduate diploma. All right, Another difference again is that postgraduate diploma is either for 1 year or for 2 years, but masters are between 1 to 3 years. All right. Another difference again is that there is no compulsory dissertation when it comes to postgraduate diploma. What I mean is, at the end of your postgraduate diploma course, you are not mandated to write a thesis or a dissertation, right? But for masters, if you are to go for masters and then it is thesis based or research based, at the end of your program you should be writing a thesis or a dissertation, right? So I could say that 70 to 80% of master's programs in Canada actually require a dissertation, a project, or a thesis. We have just a couple of them that are course based. All right. Another difference between postgraduate diploma and masters is that if you want a job specific short-term courses, then you go for postgraduate diploma, because master's program would actually offer a specialized prestigious degree, not like postgraduate diploma. And then master's degree would give you sufficient time to stay in Canada. So while on master's program, you're actually going to extend your stay, or you're going to stay longer in Canada than when you're doing a postgraduate diploma. All right. Then another difference between postgraduate diploma and masters is that at the end of your program for postgraduate diploma, if you do a 1-year postgraduate diploma, you would be eligible for 1-year postgraduate work permits. And if you study for 2 years, 2 years postgraduate diploma, you would be eligible for 2 years postgraduate work permits. But for master's degree, whether you study for 2 years, you study for 1 year, you are eligible for 3 years postgraduate work permits, courtesy of the new policy, right? So let me repeat this again. For postgraduate diploma, if you study for 1 year, you are eligible for 1 year postgraduate work permits. And if you study for 2 years, you are eligible for 2 years postgraduate work permits. However, for master's degree, whether you study for 1 year, for 2 years, or for 3 years, you are eligible for 3 years postgraduate work permits. All right. Okay, I've already stated that there is no compulsory dissertation for postgraduate diploma students as opposed to masters, right? And for postgraduate diploma, it is just postgraduate diploma and then perhaps postgraduate certificate. Okay, hence I've spoken about postgraduate certificate. I would want to tell you the little discrepancy between postgraduate diploma and postgraduate certificate. Now, postgraduate diploma is somewhat higher than postgraduate certificate, in the sense that after your postgraduate diploma, if you do postgraduate diploma for 2 terms, you can actually cover up for 1 and then you go for masters directly, but you can't use your postgraduate certificate certificate, yeah, postgraduate certificate, what is it called now? The certificate for your postgraduate certificate, right, to apply for a direct masters. Yeah, you can't do that, but you can use your postgraduate diploma certificate and then apply for masters. Let me use vivid illustration here. For instance, if I studied economics and I wish to diversify to perhaps cybersecurity in my masters, I can't really go for master's degree in Canada for cybersecurity if I studied economics, right? I would have to do a PGD first in cybersecurity. You see me now, I'm trying to diversify. They would allow me to do that in my PGD. So after obtaining the certificate from the PGD, I can then go for masters in cybersecurity, right? But if it were to be postgraduate certificate, I won't be allowed. I doubt if most schools would allow you go for masters with your postgraduate certificate. Same thing is applicable to PhD. You can't even go for PhD with your postgraduate certificate, right? It's for the purpose of professional jobs and career purposes. All right. So for masters in Canada, it could range from Master of Science, that's an MSc, Master of Arts, an MA, Master of Engineering, an MEg, and then we have Postgraduate Diploma and Postgraduate Certificates. All right. So another difference again between Postgraduate Diploma and Master's program in Canada is that if you wish to go for Postgraduate Diploma and you have low grades, your grades are not very much okay, right? And then your CV is not so great, yeah, you can go for Postgraduate Diploma. You would be accepted in Canada, right? But if your grades are very much okay, you have great CV, you can go for master's degree. Now, if you have low grades, there are just few schools that will accept you. Low grades here, I mean, if you have 3.5 below, yeah, most schools will not even accept 3.6. They accept from 3.67 and above. So most schools in Canada would require you have first class and then very high 2.1, right? But if you have third class, you can go for PGD. If your CV is not top notch, you do not have ample of work experience, you'll be taken for postgraduate diploma. All right, that's another difference between masters and diploma. But I got a great news for you. For those of you who have 2.2 and you want to venture to masters, we have schools for you. Actually, we have schools, not like so many, so we have few schools that we can make direct applications for you for master's degree, and then you'll be giving offers. Okay, so if you're in the need of master's offer in Canada and then you have 2.2, kindly send a DM. Would make your application, but the application is against 2025. All right, as most schools are already closed for September intake for master's degree, not postgraduate diploma yet. For master's degree, most schools have already closed for the September intake. So we have just one school that is available for September, and it is an MBA. So if you're ready to do an MBA, you have 2.2, you want to live in September, please send a DM. And if you have 2.2, you want to study in Canada for 2025, please send a DM. We have schools for you. All right. Having said this, I want to give you a highlight on the new policies and how it affects both those going for postgraduate diploma and those going for masters. When I say affect here, it could be positive or negative, but whichever way, it's workable, right? So we all know that there are new policies now, right? The number one policy is that the living expense has increased. This is no longer news, but for benefit of doubt and those who are not informed, so you should also know this, that the living expense in Canada has increased from 10,000 Canadian dollars to 20,635 Canadian dollars, effective from January 1st. Okay, what that implies is that you have to double your living expense and even add extra 635 Canadian dollars. Okay, and then study permit application, that's visa applications for those in secondary school, are ongoing and you'll be issued visa. Those going for masters, visa applications are ongoing for them and you would also be issued visas. Those going for PhD, you can apply for your visa and then you'll be issued visas. And finally, those going for English courses that are 6 months and less, they are not degree certificates, they are not degree programs, they're just English programs. You can do that, and then it's usually for 6 months, 3 months, or even 4 months, right? If you're going for such program, you can apply for your visa, and IRCC will treat it. But anything aside this, if you're going for undergraduate, you're going for undergraduate degree program, you're going for undergraduate diploma, you're going for postgraduate diploma, you're going for postgraduate certificate, be it 8 months or 1 year or 2 years, you would need an attestation letter from either your province or your school. Otherwise, your visa will be rejected. All right? So, by implication, those going for postgraduate diploma, if you want to apply for visa, henceforth, your application or your documents would be accompanied by an attestation letter. What that implies is that you cannot really make an application, like visa application, without an attestation letter. So if you have offer currently, you have to send an email to your school requesting for attestation letter. Great news, British Columbia has started the issuance of attestation letter to her students. So far, we've gotten from British Columbia, and congratulations to our students who already got their attestation letters. And for other schools, we're hoping from now till the 31st of this month, because that was the deadline that was given to the provinces and the schools to actually come up on how to issue the attestation letter to their students. So by the 31st, I think most people will begin to know how to navigate and then process and obtain theirs. But have it at the back of your mind that you can actually do a postgraduate certificate program. You can do postgraduate diploma program in Canada. The only thing here is that in order for your visa to be processed, you would need an attestation letter. And please, you have to start on time. Reason I'm saying you have to start on time is because each province is allotted number of attestation letter that will be issued. I like making vivid illustration. I'm going to use figures, dummy figures, they're not real figures, yeah? So let's say, for instance, Ontario is more populated than Prince Edward Island. So if we have 10 schools in Ontario, and the IRC says you are awarded 100 attestation letters, these 100 attestation letters will be shared to the schools, right, in Ontario. And you can't really say because Ontario is awarded 100 that British Island would also get 100. No, British Edward would not get the same amount of attestation letter that Ontario would get, right? So if you are to study in Ontario, being that it's highly populated with lots of schools, I would urge you to actually start your process on time. So when you get your offer letter, you can apply for your attestation letter, not when they've exhausted the attestation letter and then you begin to request for one, all right? Okay, that having been said, another thing again is, or another policy that was introduced is that students enrolled in programs delivered by PPP, that is public-private partnership schools, would no longer be eligible for postgraduate work permit. So there are some private schools that are registered or that partner with public schools in Canada. So if your school is one of those schools, after graduation, while others are receiving 1 year postgraduate work permit, 2 years postgraduate work permit, 3 years postgraduate work permit, the case may be for masters, you would not be given any. So be mindful of the schools you actually make your applications to, right? Aside these schools, most of the schools that do carry carers program, say PSW, that's personal assistant worker, and the likes anyway, you would not be eligible for postgraduate work permits. That's another news, right? Okay. Then for spousal visa, there has been a halt on spousal visa. It has been hushed so far. They actually want to reduce the number of work permits that are issued to spouses of students in Canada. So effective from September, students who are going for postgraduate diploma and postgraduate certificate and wish to embark on this journey with their spouse, with their husbands, or with their wife, all right, they won't be eligible for an open work permit anymore. You can only obtain a visit visa. So illustrating this further, what this implies is that if you're issued a 2 years visa, you are to enter Canada and then stay for 6 months and then return back to Nigeria, right? If you return back to Nigeria within the remaining interval of 2 years that your wife is still studying or your husband is still studying in Canada, you could return to Canada anytime you wish, but do not exceed 6 months because you are on a visit visa. Before now, spouses used to get work permits, meaning you're traveling with your wife and then you can work full-time at your beck and call, you can do whatever you wish. But now there has been a restriction, but this restriction does not really affect master's degree students or PhD students, right? So if you're going for a master's program and you wish to travel with your spouse will get an open work permit, right? If you're going for PhD and you wish to travel with your spouse would actually get an open work permit. But if you're going for a postgraduate work permit, you're going for postgraduate diploma, your husband or your wife or your spouse would only get a visit visa for now. But I think you can actually sort that yourself when you get to Canada. But from Nigeria here, this is actually what is obtainable, okay? All right, so to crown it all, I've said this before, by effect, those who are going for postgraduate diploma and those who are going for postgraduate certificate programs, be it 1 year or 2 years, as a case where you would get postgraduate work permit for 1 year if you study a 1 year program, and postgraduate work permit of 2 years if you study a 2 years program. But if you're going for master's program, be it 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, you would always get 3 years postgraduate work permit. All right. All right. Let me know. You can start asking your questions. I want to have an interactive session today, so if you don't mind, you may kindly send your questions, please. I'm giving you valid updates from Canada directly. I don't want you to be left behind. Some persons are already telling me, oh, Canada is there to me. You have time. Don't take it too personally, all right? There is a solution to this. If you're going for postgraduate diploma, hold on to your diploma. Then for those who are not even traveling with their spouses, what are your reasons? Is there a attestation letter? It's not a problem, baby. It's not a problem. You can actually get a attestation letter, right? British Columbia is already issuing attestation letters. So don't hold yourself back like, oh, Canada introduced this, that. It does not really affect you. Just get your attestation letter and continue your stuff, right? The hush has elapsed is going to elapse by 31st. And this is March. We have few days to 31st of March, right? You could continue with the application. There is nothing bad. And then if you have a spouse, and because they said your spouse wouldn't get an open work permit, you're trying to restrict yourself. Don't do that. You would actually have a solution when you get to Canada. You want to know how? Send a DM, all right? We always have the secrets, okay? So if you want to know how, kindly send a DM, all right? So if your CGPA is low, I have third class, I can study in the US, I can study in the UK, they're asking me to go for pre-masters, they're asking me to do this, Canada will accept you. Just send a DM. What does it take? Attestation letter, right? We can assist you in applying for your attestation letter. If you do not have enough work experience, we can get you an offer from schools in Canada for postgraduate diploma, all right? So for those of you who said your CGPA is low, please, we can get you an offer, all right? It's not too late. I would like you to ask me questions. Okay, someone said, let me know the cost to Canada and I want to move. You're ready to move? I trust you. All right, it's not expensive, but you know, it depends on the school. If I know your qualification, I would want to actually advise accordingly, right? But first is that if you're going alone without a family, your living expense is 20,635 Canadian dollars, and then you're going to add that to your school fees or to the balance of your school fees as the case were. So if your school fees is 14,000 Canadian dollars and you were able to pay tuition deposit of 4,000 Canadian dollars, you have balance of 10,000 Canadian dollars. So we're going to add the balance of 10,000 Canadian dollars of your school fees, your living expense of 20,635 Canadian dollars. That would give us a sum total of 30,635 Canadian dollars. Then we'll convert to Naira. So that should help us. When you convert to Naira, whatever it gives you, that is your proof of funds. And Canada accepts proof of funds for 4 months or 6 months. So if you have proof of funds of 4 months or 6 months, we can use it to make your application. But to understand this more, I would actually appeal that you send a DM to any of our counselors or our handler on IG, right? So we could start from there and give you a concrete explanation and also guide you on how to navigate this whole process, right? Slim Dabos. Okay, I guess that answers your question. Let me know if you understood my point. All right, so some persons would want to ask if, if Frank, do I need certificate for postgraduate diploma? Yes, you actually need a certificate for you to go for a postgraduate. Remember, it is level 7 application. This is qualification rather. This is level 7, right? It is a postgraduate. It's in the same level with master's degree, but they are not the same thing. Master's degree is higher than postgraduate diploma, right? But they are on the same level. They are postgraduate. So in order for you to even start any postgraduate application, you actually need a degree certificate and a transcript. Now, if you're going for postgraduate diploma and you have third class, you'll be accepted, right? But if you have third class and then low 2-2, you want to go for masters, you won't be accepted. We have just few schools that might actually accept you, like I said before, but not for third class, for second class lower. Okay, so but if you have third class, you can go for postgraduate diploma, but your transcript and certificate would be needed. All right, the documents would actually need the primary documents you would need to even make the application. Okay, is there general intake for Canada? Yes, for postgraduate diploma we have for September intake of 2024, meaning you can even leave in July or August against your resumption in September. But if it's for January, fine, we have offers for January, meaning you are to travel in December as against your classes in January. All right. If Frank, let me know if that answers your question. Is living expenses same as proof of funds? Okay, so what makes up your proof of funds, Frank, is the balance of your tuition and your living expense, right? Proof of funds here simply means the amount of money you have to take care of your living expense, and then your living expense here comprises of your transportation, your feeding, your accommodation, your books, miscellaneous. You could take ill, your insurance, your light bill. Do you understand? So those bills for 9 months gives 20,635 Canadian dollars. Then we're going to add the balance of your school fees, because most schools will ask you to pay your tuition deposit before you're given letter of acceptance with which you would apply for your visa. All right. So if your school fees is 14,000 Canadian dollars, and when your offer arrives and your school asks you to pay deposit of 4,000, after the deposit is made, now the balance of your school fees would be 10,000. So we're going to add the 10,000 Canadian dollars from the balance of your school fees to the living expense of 20,635. That will give us a total sum of 30,635,000 Canadian dollars. Then we'll convert it to Naira. Whatever that gives you, that is your proof of funds. So proof of funds technically is, or to put in a layman's way, not technically here, it's living expense plus balance of tuition. All right, living expense plus balance of tuition. And now this living expense is non-negotiable. It's static, right? It used to be 10,000 Canadian dollars. Not until January it changed to 20,635. So everybody's living expense, in as much as you're a student, is the same thing for Canada. The only thing that varies is your school fees, because the school fees are not the same thing. We have school fees of 12,000 Canadian dollars, 17,000 Canadian dollars, 23,000 Canadian dollars, even 40,000 Canadian dollars. We also have as low as 10,000 Canadian dollars. All right. So you could see that the school fees varies. So everybody does not really have the same amount of money as proof of funds. That is because YA has school fees of 18,000 and balance of 15 to pay. B has school fees of 10,000 and no balance of school fees. YC has school fees of 14,000 and has balance of 12,000. So by the time you add your balance or your school fees to your living expense, which is the same thing for everybody, find out that everybody will be having an individual proof of funds. All right. If Frank, let me know if that answers your question. All right. Please, I want to entertain question. Lovers of Canada, I want to entertain questions. While I'm waiting for you to ask your question, I would like to take this, because some persons might be reflecting, if I go for this postgraduate diploma, how would I even go for my PhD tomorrow? Would I be able to go for PhD? Well, here, if your transcript is good enough and it's equivalent to say 2-1, right? I would tell you that Masters is the best choice for you, or would be the best choice for you, right? A master's degree is academically stronger than postgraduate certificate or postgraduate diploma. I said academically, right? For those of you that want to venture into the academic tomorrow, you want to be an academician, you're into academia, you want to be a researcher, you want to be a lecturer, right? You can go for direct masters if you have a strong 2-1 or if you have first class, okay? Otherwise, you would have to go for postgraduate diploma for 1 year before you actually go for masters and then your PhD. All right. So what courses are available for postgraduate diploma? We have lots of them, from business analytics, to management, biological and health sciences, mechanical and electronics, engineering courses, we have tourism and hospitality management, we have computer related courses. All right, all of them are available for postgraduate diploma. So if you want to venture into a different thing other than what you've been doing or what you studied, the best for you is postgraduate diploma or postgraduate certificate, right? But if you want to go into academics and then your transcript is fine, your CGPA is good, masters will be the best for you. But if you want to actually go into academia and your CGPA is not fine, well, you have to start with postgraduate diploma first before you continue. All right. And then some people would also ask, this postgraduate diploma in Nigeria, they see it as an ordinary degree. It does not even have value. Does it hold water in Canada? It holds lots of water. Canada is not like Nigeria, right? So if eventually you start this program and upon successful graduation, you're going to get jobs. It's actually for professional jobs, and then for upping of your skills and career purposes. You would get jobs. They do not discriminate between postgraduate diploma, postgraduate certificate, or masters. They don't. All right. The only place where they would actually segregate or discriminate is when you have postgraduate certificate and you want to go for PhD. You will not be accepted because they have a laid down standard and rules. All right. Then some people will ask, why would I even go for postgraduate diploma? Is it equivalent to masters? They are both postgraduate, but they are not the same thing. I want to reiterate, I've said this before. They are both on the same level. They are both postgraduates, right? But you can't use both of them to do same thing. You can use your masters to apply for PhD, but you cannot use a 2-term diploma course to apply for a PhD. Hear me well. You can use your master to apply for direct PhD, but you cannot use your postgraduate diploma of 2 terms to apply for PhD, right? And I said this before, if you studied electronical engineering and then you want to start doing economics, you want to venture into finance, you need a postgraduate diploma. You cannot just go for a master's degree, even if your CGPA is 4.0. You can't from finance and then you're going to engineering, or from engineering and you're going to finance just like that. No, if you want to actually change that, you have to start. There should be a step up. You have to actually go for a postgraduate diploma, all right, before you can do that. All right. Can one study diploma after graduation in Canada? This is for those of them who are going for undergraduate degree programs. Yeah, you can. So if after you finish with your undergraduate diploma, for those going for UG, you can continue with postgraduate diploma. All right, you can actually continue with your postgraduate diploma. Okay, does postgraduate diploma offer jobs in Canada? Yes. There are abundance of jobs anybody who studied postgraduate diploma can actually do or go for. You're looking for a course that will take you out. Postgraduate diploma is easiest, right? It's cheaper, it's less stressful. You don't have to start cracking your brain and studying so hard, okay? So postgraduate diploma is fine. The only clause postgraduate diploma has now is if you're traveling with a spouse, your spouse would only get a visit visa from Nigeria before you actually land Canada. And then another clause again is that for you to do this, for you to apply for your visa, you would need an attestation letter, all right? But aside these two, there is nothing wrong with postgraduate diploma. It's still the same thing the way it were since in Canada. Nothing really has changed apart from these two clauses that were introduced. Spouse's visa would no longer be open work permit, it's going to be visit visa. And then you would need an attestation letter for you to actually apply for your visa, all right? So let me get your questions. Nobody is asking questions today. It's like you really got all I said. All right, I wish to say thank you for joining. I'm glad that this session today is so inciting. I've had an amazing time here with you all. Dami, Achibawale, Bolly _ legal _ tips, Dami Lola, Constar, I am Delight, God _ win, Kala Majek. Hello to all of you. I love you. Thank you for joining. Always join our live session. All right. So if there are no more questions, I would want to believe everybody understood what I said, and then I passed a valid update, right? When I said updates, right? So I've released and I've given out much updates to you guys, and I'm waiting on my DM. I want to start making applications. So please send in your DM and your requests or your inquiries, okay? Rosa Buena, what would you recommend for someone who has long study gap, like 14 years? 14 years. Rosa Buena, baby, I would recommend postgraduate diploma. All right? I would actually recommend postgraduate diploma. You know why? It is easier to navigate as compared to masters, right? So and I guess after 14 years you don't want to become a professor, or perhaps even if you want to become a professor, but at least you have to start from somewhere, right? So if you have long study gap of 14 years, postgraduate diploma will do justice to that. You will get an offer easily, okay? Thank you, Sophie. Thank you. Alabi Suliat, you're joining now. For those of you joining now, thank you for joining. I would give a recap before I leave. Honestly, I enjoyed my time with you all. I don't know if you did. All right. I can't really wave at everyone, but please accept my wave from here. All right. Okay. So just to take a recap of our discussion today, for those who didn't meet us, before I take my final bow and leave. So today we deliberated on differences between postgraduate diploma and masters, and which would diploma you would also be given postgraduate work permit of 2 years. And within that 2 years, if you are in provinces where they issue at PR, you will get your PR even in 1 year. So you don't have to actually stay for 3 years before you get your PR. All right? Yeah. So you don't have to extend your stay for 3 years before you actually get your PR. So having said that, we actually spoke about the differences between postgraduate diplomas and master's degree in Canada. And then we highlighted them, which I'm going to recap now. Said PGD is excellent opportunity for those who want to upgrade their skills, who want to change their career paths, who want to gain global exposure and build strong professional work ethics. Then people too that want to study at a very low cost, PGD is for you. If you have third class, you have study gap just as she asked, right? PGD is for you, right? And then what is actually the difference between this PGD and masters? Since both of them are postgraduates, postgraduate diploma has 60 to 120 credit units, while masters has 180 credit units and above, all right? And you can study postgraduate diploma for 1 or 2 years, while masters is from 1 to 3 years. right? So for postgraduate diploma, you do not have compulsory thesis, dissertation, or projects at the end of your program. But for masters, you would have either of them, all right, except you opt for course-based program. Okay. Then for postgraduate work permit, if you're doing PGD, you would have postgraduate work permit of 1 year if you study for 1 year, and if you study for 2 years, you will have postgraduate work permit of 2 years. While for masters, you have postgraduate work permit of 3 years, regardless if you study for 1 or 2 years. All right. And then we have Master of Science. For master's program, we have Master of Arts. For master's program, we have Master of Engineering for master's program. Why? It is either postgraduate diploma or postgraduate certificate. All right. Then if you want to go for postgraduate diploma and you do not have enough work experience, you will be given an offer. If you have low CGPA and you want to go for postgraduate diploma, you would be given an offer. But if you do not have enough work experience and your CGPA is poor, you even have 2 to 3.0, you might not really have an offer for masters. We have just few schools that will accept you if you have 2.2, right? So if you have 2.2 and you're persistent on going on masters for masters program, would help you make applications to these schools. They would actually accept you, but most schools will request for 2.1. Please do have that at the back of your mind, because some persons might actually have some schools. I want to attend the University of Regina, I want to attend the University of Manitoba, and then you have 2.78, you will not be accepted, right? So basically the difference between postgraduate diploma and postgraduate and master's degree here is eligibility, right? We have the eligibility and then the credit units. All right. So having said this, I also talked about the new policies and how they affect those going for masters and those going for postgraduate diploma. Here I mean that the effect of these policies on masters students and postgraduate students. Now, the first one affects everybody, which is whether you're going for master's degree program or you're going for postgraduate diploma program, your living expense are the same thing, 20,635 Canadian dollars. As opposed is that if you're going for masters, you're going to secondary school, they call it K-12, you're going for PhD, you can apply for your visa straight up with your spouse, and your spouses will be given work permits, will be given open work permits, as opposed to those going for postgraduate diploma or postgraduate certificate. For you to apply for your visa, you would need an attestation letter from your school or from the province. And I said British Columbia have already started issuing out attestation letters, and some of our students have gotten already. All right, so for those who have gotten, their visas have been applied for. So not until you get your attestation letter, you won't be able to apply for your visa. Otherwise, it is an automatic denial. Okay, but for those going for masters, you do not need attestation letter. Another again is those going for short-term courses, English courses for 6 months and below, 6, 5, 4, 3 months. You do not need an attestation letter. Make your application or allow us process your visa for you. You would actually get a response. Okay. I did also say that PPP programs delivered by PPP schools, that's public-private partnership, schools that are run by this public-private partnership or co-owned, right? Or that are affiliated, public schools that are, private schools that are affiliated to public schools or that partner with public schools, they would no longer issue students who graduate from such school postgraduate work permits. Let me recap that. If you're going to a school or you get an offer from a school that is public-private partnered, you would not be eligible for a postgraduate work permit. Having said this, you have to be very careful on the kind of school you make applications to. This is the reason why you have to trust us with your application, because we have single-handedly handled lots of applications, and we do not make applications to such schools because the essence of the whole thing is you studying in Canada and having postgraduate work permit at the end of the day. All right. Finally, by the 31st of March, most schools and provinces would give announcements on how to navigate attestation letters. Okay, so you should be on the know in this. Then you can also message, for those of you who already have offers, you can send emails to your school to get more information on that. And if you have offers from schools in Canada and you want us to help you process your visa, you may kindly send a DM. All right, we'll process your visa in as much as we're able to tag you. And when we do this, we're processing your visa at no cost at all. It is absolutely free of charge. So if you have offers from schools in Canada, not just Canada, even UK, we tag a lot. So we can tag you and process your visa free of charge. Please always use our handles, send DMs, chat up our able counselors. We want to make your applications for you. We want to assist you. We want to be there for you from the beginning to the end, just like we've done in the years past. All right. Thank you for joining once again. I am Happiness, in case you do not know. All right. So meet you again, see you again, same time, same day, next week. Bye bye from my end. Thank you.